start with goal setting, right? So understanding what are those fundamentals, what are you really trying to achieve, and then what are the assets that you'll bring to bear in order to be able to do that. And then moving from the quantitative to the qualitative, but really taking a look at outcomes as opposed to outputs, right? I think Alex Aiken from the UK government is probably one of the people who everyone likes to quote the most, because he says it's an SOS, sending out stuff, or depending upon how many drinks anyone's had, that could mean anything. But it's really a matter of giving that qualitative approach to what you're trying to accomplish, and not just pushing things out for the sake of checking a box that you've pushed something out. You know, and it takes us to the third element, and that's being able to apply your work and your communications efforts to the performance and measuring that where you can. You know, I think oftentimes we've lived through and endured people saying, but I went into PR because I'm not good at math. That's no longer an excuse. Communications at every level now is a very data-driven discipline. For those people who are going to be able to impact and make a difference there, they're able to see at a very micro and macro level how they need to shift those levers to be able to be relevant and influence their audience. And I think that they do have to take the mindset and apply that and layer that over the art that is communications, but always be looking at the data. You know, and that when we talk about AVEs, I mean, it is an age-old and tiresome argument, but they aren't the value of communication. They can be an indicator, and they can show a correlation of a part of your program that may or may not be functioning. But it is definitely, you know, sometimes I've seen over the years, people will say, my AVE is the ROI. And that's one of those cringeworthy moments where you really can't, you know, you can't interloop the two. They do not mean the same thing. And because you've been asked to provide a number to your CFO and you've chosen that number, you've not shown them an ROI. You've shown them a piece of data that is a costing data at best. And then, you know, obviously social media being able to be measured comparatively. I mean, and this is from 2015 that these were updated. And now that we see that's more and more integrated, it's very interesting. And there's some interesting things going on in Europe with Article 13 and how sharing of information is being affected. And I think that that potentially has an impact on, you know, on the different channels and how people are consuming data and what that might look like. But most importantly to attribution is, you know, that this data needs to be transparent, consistent, and valid. And while I think all organizations kind of have their secret sauce or their special flair that they put to things, if that data is not replicable, and if it is not transparent to you of the sourcing of that data, it makes it very hard for you to have those conversations that Eric's talking about. When you're asked by your CFO to validate that data, you know, what does this really mean? How is this impacting our bottom line? And if you can't really break that apart, that's going to be a potential credibility issue, and I don't think anybody wants to be facing that.
Oh,
and I think that really leads into those elements that I think Eric's going to share with us about some of those components that you can introduce into the mix and into your balance that's going to give that different perspective so you aren't looking to, you know, some single black box metric.